you playing?
Hello, and welcome to What the Bleep Are You Played? A podcast where we play a game and tell you why the bleep we're playing it. Except for today, as this is an interlude episode where we are going to do the top 5 video game characters of all time.
And if anybody disagrees with us, you're wrong. No, I'm kidding.
This week.
I'm the master of lists, Sean. I'm here with Thomas, who probably has too many fighting game characters on his list. And here's Mason, who made us play Go Vacation. You're never going to live it down, bud. Never going to live it down.
My number one, Mason, my number 3 character is the avatar from Go Vacation. Why the fuck?
So we decided...
It's the character from Tekken, but not from Tekken.
Yeah, it's Itachi from Go Vacation.
Oh, God.
It'd be amazing, actually. I would actually shake your hand for having the balls to do that.
So occasionally we like to throw these interlude episodes in, where we just give you a list and we come up with the top 5. And the fun thing about lists, especially top 5s, are that it puts a point in time where this was your list. Tomorrow this may not be your list. Yesterday this may not be your list. But today, on this date, this was your list.
This wasn't even my list 5 seconds ago, because I moved my 1 to my number 5.
What?
Mason did some moving around here quickly.
I was going to bring it up. This is going to be different like next week for me. I don't know about you guys, but...
Oh, it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty sure my 1 and 2 will stay 1 and 2 for a long time. They are pretty much my 2 favorite characters. But the 3, 4, and 5 spots... I have so many honorable mentions because I rotated probably 15 different characters through this different spot at one point or another.
I had like a pretty consistent top 5, but... Even then, I had like a debate, and I'm not even fully comfortable with my number 1, but we'll get to it, and I'll explain why.
So the reason I changed my number 1 is because I made it my number 1 specifically to piss off a bunch of people, but I decided, you know what, no, I want to make this list accurate. I kept him on there because I do genuinely really like this character.
I have a lot of hilarious honorable mention characters that might piss some people off as well, so...
See, mine's pretty legit. I must be boring.
Video game characters, there's hundreds of thousands of millions of video game characters. I mean, just leading up to this podcast, talking about a couple of games that, wouldn't have even crossed my mind. I didn't put Math Blaster on my honorable mentions, but hey, that's something I could have possibly put there because you know what? I have I played that a lot. So it's fun to realize there are so many games. We're going to miss characters.
Yeah.
This is just going to be fun.
We're going to finish this podcast, and as soon as Sean stops the record button, we're going to be like, fuck!
I should have bought that, yeah.
Which maybe, the farther this podcast goes, maybe we'll revisit this one day. We'll sit down and revisit, why did we have those lists?
Why did we...
Yeah, what was this?
So, let's go ahead and start our list. Thomas, you want to go first on this one with your number 5?
Sure. I will be perfectly honest. My number 5... If you can't tell, I'm a very basic bitch. Mm-hmm. All of my 5s are main characters. My honorable mentions are not, but all my 5s are main characters. This is one that I've known for a while, but I've only recently gotten to really loving to the point he's in my top 5. It's Phoenix Wright.
Yes.
Adding an honorable mention.
To be put bluntly, he was in an honorable mention at one point. He bumped out someone who's now in my honorable mentions because I'm just like, I have to. Because, I'm the guy who likes, God of War, Devil May Cry, all that shit. I love the action games, but nothing in video games is quite as satisfying as Phoenix Wright finding a hole in the testimony, using that objection and whatever. And
Those games are so good.
They're so good.
And part of it is it's crazy characters.
Oh yeah,
that make you don't take the law tremendously serious in it, but the crazy characters and the way you can play it. The first one that came stateside was the DS, right? Or was there a GBA? I think
a DS was first.
The DS was the first one.
That game helped the DS in so many ways. So.
They found a weird little niche that nobody had ever explored before, and nobody has really done since.
What are you talking about? There's obviously the Harvey Birdman game.
Oh,
that's literally a Phoenix Wright ripoff.
In a lot of ways, they started some of the stories that we could tell. A lot of the Sherlock Holmes games follow some of the same patterns. A lot of the mystery type games, but they are very unique in their own way.
Because you're not playing a detective, you're a lawyer or a defense attorney, and I think that is such a cool thing because In other games like Phoenix Wright, Sherlock Holmes, or even something like L.A. Noire, you're a detective. You're trying to solve the mystery, but that's it. You solve the mystery, you stop the bad guy, game over. Here, you not only have to prove your client innocent, you have to find the guilty party because this court system's fucked up.
Yeah, like
It's an anime-ass court system.
Yeah.
And I think the reason I picked Phoenix Wright, because I could have picked so many characters. I could have picked Maya. I wouldn't have picked Detective Gumshoe, but I still love Detective Gumshoe. There is another Phoenix Wright character in my honorable mentions, and you could probably guess who it is. But the reason I picked Phoenix Wright, because I was really debating, because I didn't know if I liked him or I liked his interactions with people, like if I liked him just as a straight man. But he's a really funny character in his own right, especially when you play the games and you get his inner monologue, and he's a really funny character. He's not cool in the traditional sense, he's kind of a nerd, he's kind of a dweeb, but he is smart as fuck, and that's why I like him.
Yeah.
It's a good choice. It's a good choice.
That's a really great choice.
I did not expect 100%, honestly, even though now I'm like, wow, that should have been an honorable mention on there.
That's going to be a thing with this list. We'll probably say something, and the other will be like, shit. Like,
something I just thought about is that earlier, a few days ago, when we were first planning this out, you told me that you didn't have any fighting game characters in your top 5. You are a liar. You are a liar,
crossover
sir.
games don't count. Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 does not count. I know.
Because then I would have multiple Smash Bros. Characters in my list.
Oh, there you go.
I was going to say, because there's a Smash Brothers character later on, so yeah.
All right, fair enough.
No, trust me, that came across my mind.
All characters can technically be a fighting game character as long as the developers are willing.
Mugen, baby.
All right, Mason, what is your top number 5?
So when I was thinking about the top 5, I thought I included in my list the characters that are some of the most memorable to me and memorable to my experience in the game that they're from. And one of the characters that I put in is one of those characters that is they're annoying for the sake of being annoying. I think we can think of a lot of characters like that. The one that immediately comes to my mind is Navi from
Legend of Zelda.
From
If
Legend
it's
of Zelda.
Omochao, I'm going to smack you.
It's not Omochao, but that is another one that I thought of. The character that I picked, who on the surface level is just annoying for the sake of being annoying, but I found him to be incredibly funny, is CL4PTP. I'm of course talking about Claptrap from the Borderlands franchise. Okay. He is one of my, for a while, I could say he's one of my favorite side characters, but he was playable in Borderlands the pre-sequel, so now God, I love playing as him in Borderlands the pre-sequel. That's the whole reason why I wanted that game to begin with, is because I love Claptrap as a character. He's just so funny.
Those games are really well written.
They're very well written. And
characters that maybe would have been more annoying in a badly written game actually are more enjoyable because the game writes them so well.
Kind of the whole purpose behind Claptrap is to be annoying, but they do it in a funny way. So
yeah, because he's like he's the Navi. He's the tutorial character in the first 2 games, at least.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what they were playing off of, is the annoying tutorial type character, but they do it in such a good way with Claptrap. He's just, but especially where I love him the most isn't even the Borderlands games. It's the game Poker Night 2. Where
That's a really good.
It's a great pull.
Really funny in that game. Like, that game on its own is hilarious, but he's a comedic high point in my opinion.
You brought up Poker Night 2. I got 2 more honorable mentions.
Honestly, that's a good poll there for your 5, Mason. Good job. There's
Thank you.
no cats there this time.
No cats.
So that's number 1. No.
I don't have any. I have animals in my honorable mentions, but no animals of any type in my top 5.
I can't say that I don't have any animals. Anyway.
No, Blinks the Time Sweeper?
Who?
Yeah, exactly.
Blinks. It's a good.
I mean, I had to kick out Bubsy. I did have to kick out Bubsy from my top 5, so that was an unfortunate sacrifice. No, I didn't.
Well, my number 5, you guys have gone heroes and side characters. I went with the villain route in my number 5, and arguably the most iconic villain, and that is Sephiroth. Final Fantasy had been around for quite a while. This, as it was the 7th in the franchise. Not
Was it
counting
even
all the
this?
spin-offs.
Was it? the 7? Were there side games by
Oh yeah,
that time?
there were plenty of side
So,
games.
yeah,
because
this
the same
was-
year the Final Fantasy VII came out, Final Fantasy Tactics also
It
came
was
out.
it was the 7th Final Fantasy in the same way Resident Evil 4 was the 4th.
Fourth,
Exactly.
Or if like this, if Street Fighter V was the 5th Street Fighter, if you don't count the bajillion versions
Yeah, if you
of
don't
Street
count
Fighter 2.
Alpha or EX the 17,000 versions of Street Fighter 2 or the Street Fighter movie game now.
I spent a long time waffling on what to put as my number 5, and I kicked out a bunch of different characters. And obviously, Final Fantasy games are my everything. That is my franchise. There'll be more later on the list and more in the honorable mentions. I waffled a lot here, and eventually I decided if I was going to take somebody from Final Fantasy VII, arguably the most important game in the franchise, that I was going to take Sephiroth, partly because of his impact as a villain, partly because of how deep his story is and shown both in Final Fantasy VII and then more in Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core. And then just because he has one of the most impactful scenes possibly in video game history, the death of Aerith.
Yeah.
'cause, yeah,
That's
everyone knows that scene. Even if you've never played a
Yeah.
Final Fantasy, you
That-
know.
Yeah.
And he also has quite possibly a top 5 soundtrack piece to accompany him in One
One
Winged
Winged
Angel.
Angel is really good.
So,
Is that the only reason to watch Final Fantasy VII Advent Children is for that final battle between Cloud and Sephiroth?
it is very
Yes.
good.
Wait, there's a Final Fantasy VII movie?
Yep, Final Fantasy. It's technically the sequel to Final Fantasy VII, albeit the timeline is a little skewed up because we're going to find out where it all is once remake is finished. But yes, there's a sequel movie that came out in 2006, 2005.
I believe it's 2000. It's mid to late 2000s.
Yeah,
Is it
because
any-
it was the same. It was the same E3 where they announced the PlayStation 3.
Is it any good?
Animation styles, very great. Like it is an incredible animation. Story wise, it's a little convoluted and confusing, and it's
Well, that's
it's-
Final Fantasy
It's a
for you.
lot of fan service wink, but the final fight is spectacular.
Yeah.
And also the English dub is hilarious in parts.
Yeah, I think the movie is like Sean said, animation wise, brilliant. Genuinely, I think it's still one of the most gorgeous animated films ever made.
Decades later, I mean, look, Final Fantasy Spirits Within is one of the most gorgeous things ever, and that movie is now 20 years old.
But as an actual movie, it's not.
Not great.
But-
It has its moments, and it has a lot of things, and it has some interesting. It also is the first time that a lot of characters got voice acting.
But again, in my opinion, the movie is worth it just for that final fight between Cloud and
Absolutely.
Sephiroth.
And then when Sephiroth appeared in Smash, that was a huge moment.
Look,
Impaling Mario in the
Seph-
trailer.
my favorite reaction. I don't know if anyone. There's a YouTuber named Cosmonaut Variety Hour. Yeah,
Heard of them. You've told me about
I was
them.
gonna say I've told you about them. He reacted to the stream where Sephiroth was revealed, and my favorite reaction is he was bored throughout the entire show. Like that was the only part where he got a good reaction, and he was like, "Oh yeah, this is cool. This is cool." It gets to the part where it shows Sephiroth like thrusting through Mario, and he just screams
Poor choice of words.
No, right choice of words.
through. I can't. He just screams at the top of his lungs, the loudest he gets in the entire show. They fucking killed Mario.
That's my favorite thing about the DLC reveals is just them crapping
Mario
on Mario.
gets his ass whipped in like every DLC reveal.
I think wait.
I'm gonna say because Kazuya kicked the ass of the entire
Yeah,
roster.
that was great.
Banjo Kazooie one didn't have
Yeah,
Mario in it.
Which-
K. Rool.
That was the K. Rool, which then the Banjo Kazooie. They had great reveals. Honestly,
They did.
all of them were
They
really
really
well
did.
done.
I mean, my favorite one is Kazuya's just because I Tekken whore, but genuinely they're all great.
I really like the Steve one.
the Steve one
is
was
really funny.
good because that was so out of left field. Nobody thought Steve from Minecraft was coming.
Sora was one where like my dumbass, I saw the fire and everything. My first thought was, oh shit, it's Solaire from Dark Souls. That was my first thought, and then he throws the fire and it makes the keyhole. I'm like, oh, it's Sora. Like, and I felt like a fucking idiot.
We might be coming back to that comment in a little while.
On my top 5 is Solaire from Dark Souls. No, I'm kidding.
Thomas, what's your number 4?
Well, I go from smart anime boy to dumb as fuck anime boy, but I love him either way. He was my number 5 for a while, but I had to push him up because I adore this kid. It's Pit from Kid Icarus.
Oh
Uprising.
yeah.
Good character.
Again, he's kind of like I'm a really big fan of the dumbass Heart of Gold boys. Like the people who fight to the death, fight to the earth's end, will do anything for their friends, but they're dumb as a goddamn rock.
No wonder you're a One Piece fan.
I was gonna say, because it's Luffy.
Luffy might be the dumbest anime
Oh
protagonist.
yeah, Luffy is dumb as rocks, but I love that boy, and I will never not love that boy. Ironically, my second favorite anime protagonist is Dr. Stone. Or Senku, whatever the hell his name is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love Pip. Like, on top of the fact that he tries really hard to be an anime protagonist, and it's just like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, because I don't know if you've ever played Kid Icarus Uprising. That is one of the funniest games ever made.
It is. It was.
It's 3DS exclusive. God, please port it to the Switch, Nintendo.
Or make a sequel, either one.
I don't need a sequel. Like, genuinely, the game ends in a way where I'm fine with it not continuing.
But a port would be
But
nice.
just
A lot of those 3DS games I would like to see.
Especially because, like, I do love the game,
Play on the Switch.
but its control scheme is really awkward. Like, it's a really weird control scheme. You have to have the stylus in one hand and holding up the 3DS with another hand, and you have to basically make these claw formations. It's weird.
Yeah.
But
You're saying that a 3DS game had bad controls? I, for one, am shocked.
No. Other shocking revelations for everyone. Darth Vader's Luke's father.
Perish the thought.
Snape killed Dumbledore.
Wait, Snape killed Dumbledore? I'm kidding. I knew that.
Just, wait, what?
And Bruce Willis was dead the whole time.
Oh, yeah, I knew
Yeah,
that.
and Die Hard.
I knew
In Die Hard.
You never saw Die Hard 5? His career died after it.
Yikes.
No, but yeah, I love Pitt.
It's a good character.
Because he's just a stupid anime boy, but he's got a heart of gold.
He's also really fun in Smash.
I would say
He's really fun in Smash.
I do love Pit, but where I love Pit the most is not only just in Smash, but in Smash during the Palutena guidance dialogue. So it's just so funny. And I'm so happy that they added more for Ultimate for the characters that weren't in 4. I love them.
It's great. I genuinely, my only complaint about the Palutena's guidance stuff in Smash, this is becoming a bit of a Smash episode, but that's okay.
Look, the characters in Smash is
Smash has all the
a
characters.
lot of the most popular characters.
Yeah.
But like my only complaint about the Palutena's guidance in Smash 4 is that when they get to Solid Snake, I really wish that Snake had a codec call with it. And it was like, Palutena, who's this guy? What's an angel doing here? What the fuck?
That was something weird that I thought about Ultimate, is that they added more Palutena guidance, but they didn't add any codex calls. I wish they did, because that would have been funny.
I mean, the codec calls are one of my favorite parts because it reveals that Snake just fucking hates Sonic the Hedgehog, like, for no reason. He's just like, you have to like Sonic the Hedgehog, Snape. Nope, just don't. That's so funny to me.
Colonel, there's a monkey here with a red Nintendo hat.
That's Diddy Kong.
Oh, God. Good times.
But yeah, short story even shorter, rather. I love Pit. He's funny. He's got a heart of gold. He drives a fucking mech in the game, and that automatically bumps him up like 3 points.
That's fair.
And I don't know. I really like him.
Alrighty, well, Pit number 4. Coming in strong here. All right, Mason, you're number 4.
So when I was thinking about characters to add to my list, one of the other things that I was considering was characters in games that elevate them to like cinematic status. Games that are like on par with some of the greatest movies. And my immediate thought when I thought about that, and the more I thought about it, I thought like that, yeah, this is probably my favorite instance of a game that felt cinematic was the first Red Dead Redemption. So I chose John Marston as my number 4.
It's a really good book.
Because I just think his arc in that story of like trying to sever ties with the gang that he was in and going through and trying to clear his name and everything, and that ending, my God, that ending, like that. Oh my God, I'm getting chills just thinking about it.
Mason coming in strong with the good games here.
Yeah.
But like,
not that any of the other games have been bad that we've
Right,
seen,
but
but Mason's
still,
like,
but still
what
like
if I
that.
picked the best games ever?
but like, specifically the ending. Yeah, the ending just nails I don't think the ending. I don't think John Marston would be as strong a character without that ending.
Oh yeah,
Because
absolutely.
the idea of him, he's defending. He has done so many sins in his past, and he's probably done a lot more throughout the game because there's a player controlling him.
Right.
But like the idea that he's just like, I've done a lot bad in my past. I am going to put it all the line. I'm going to save my wife and kid, even if it costs me everything. Like,
Yes.
Such a good ending.
Absolutely.
And admittedly, I do also love the epilogue where Jack grows up and kills the bad guy, because that is a really good ending as well. But it is John's journey, and I think his journey ends really well.
And something that I was thinking about recently when I was considering putting him on my list, isn't it kind of weird that like we only have like one major Western video game franchise? It's like Red Dead Redemption is to Western games what the Jurassic Park franchise is to dinosaur movies. Like we can't have more. Why can't why like? Why
I mean,
aren't
there were
other
definitely a
ones?
few in the PlayStation 2 era that came out.
I was going to say there's a lot of the PS.
What is it? Gun? Is that the one I'm thinking of?
Gun, which is really good. Call of Juarez was a big thing throughout the PS3 era. So they were.
There are a few, but there is only one. Like, if you say Western video games, Red Dead is what people are going to
you
come
think
up
of
with.
you think of Red Dead. Yeah.
Even though like I'm not the biggest fan of Red Dead Redemption, but that's more because I'm not too fond of Rockstar's games. I mean, sometimes they make really good games. Max Payne. No, the Bully. I mean, they have some games that are really good, but their main games, GTA and Grand Theft Auto, I can't get into.
That's fair.
And it's not even. I don't even think it's a sandbox thing because I love Saints Row. It's just something about.
I mean, you also
Rockstar
mentioned on a previous podcast Warriors. In the
yeah,
beatdown, and that's-
Warriors. I forgot the Rockstar did that, and yes, Warriors is another one of the really good games. I might just be biased towards the PS2 era.
Exactly. You're just like, which ones can be better versions of Beatdown Fists of Vengeance than what I want from them?
It's kind of funny that you're discussing your distaste of Rockstar right now because my character after this is also from a Rockstar
Ooh, I
game.
can't wait. I can't wait. Alrighty, well then, let's get to that as quickly as we can, as I'll do to my number 4. And like Mason, I thought of a lot of different categories and what to put in a top 5. I wanted to factor in impact on the industry, but more than anything, I wanted impact on me. And one of the games that kind of fully made me a quote-unquote gamer was Spyro the Dragon on the PlayStation. And that is one of the early games that I actually completed entirely, 100%, beat it all, got to the very end, got all the treasure, and solidified it. So Spyro the Dragon is on this list because despite the fact that I don't think there are many other good games that Spyro has actually starred in as a whole, besides that first one, I think the original trilogy are fine, all done by Insomniac. They're fine.
Yes.
But really the only game that I loved from the franchise is the original. I've played multiples of the Game Boy games. I played the one on the GameCube. Was that Legend of the Dragonflies?
There's Legend of the Dragonfly, Eternal Night, and Legend of the Dragon or whatever. The Legend of Spyro trilogy, basically, where he's Elijah Wood.
That original game will always sit with me. And also as we've done a lot of platforming games around that time frame, and very few games got platforming right in the 90s and early 2000s like Spyro the Dragon.
Yeah, there was
with a legitimately good camera, with with good platforming, where everything was challenging but not impossible, where you had to work towards something, but it also wasn't like you were bashing your head against things. It was just a wonderfully done game that was funny, witty. Spyro is in a lot of ways, is a spoiled brat, but goes on a mission to save people. I don't know if he learns really anything in the game, very much, but
it's a platformer story. With the exception of my number 3, but with the exception of him, there's not a lot of platformers where the characters go on arcs.
Yep.
There's some, but there's not.
Especially at that time frame, but the idea of being a little dragon running around trying to save your family and friends while lighting sheep on fire was just really fun, and very few games have given that experience ever again, in all honesty.
That is true.
Why can't PlayStation hold on to their mascots?
Well, a lot of that is that the studios wanted to move on to other things, but they were big money-wise, so they sold them. Spyro and Crash Bandicoot were sold basically at the exact same time, I
Yeah.
believe, to the same company, because that's
Yeah,
why the Spyro
Activision.
and Crash games came out on
They
the
were
Game Boy.
yeah, they both kind of had the same arc.
Yeah, they were
in there.
both bought by Activision.
That's what I thought, because I thought it was Activision.
I feel like I mean, with the fact that Toys for Bob has now been merged into the Call of Duty machine, I feel like there was going to be a Spyro 4 after Crash 4.
It wouldn't
like,
have surprised me.
I think that's
especially
what
with
it
how
was.
successful the Reignited trilogy was,
Which I need to play.
It is really good, and I have only played again. I really only played the first game because that's the game on it. But it's like jumping right back in, but it looks
But just-
amazing. It's still
Yeah, that's the one thing I know. It looks gorgeous.
it does look really really good, and
It
it
and
plays the same.
It and the Insane Trilogy both look gorgeous. I prefer Crash 4's art style for Crash Bandicoot, but Spyro Reignited that is a perfect art style for Spyro.
Yep.
Like it is genuinely amazing.
So there. That's my my tugging on the old nostalgia
The old-
strings
yeah.
there, but a really really good game that introduced and played through. It was only the second game I'd beaten beginning to end. First one being Super Mario World 2, Yoshi's Island.
Oh wow.
And so as a kid, that was just really cool to finally sit down and beat a game all the way through. All right, Thomas, let's hear about that number 3 platforming.
The number 3, like I said, it's the one platforming character I can think of. Maybe there's others, I don't know, who goes on a big arc throughout all of his games. Whether that be his Exodus or his Odyssey, it's Abe from Oddworld.
Wow.
Yeah, good games.
Yeah, and genuinely, like I said, Abe is the one, because he's the polar opposite of my other two picks. I have the pretty anime boys, and now I have this ugly as shit motherfucker. But he's one of those characters. I'm a big fan. If you can't tell, there's some certain tropes I'm a big fan of, and another one I'm a big fan of is the reluctant hero. And Abe is that to a T.
Yep.
Because he doesn't want to be the Messiah. He doesn't want to be. He's the life of Brian. I mean, would you listen to me? I'm not the Messiah. He is the Messiah. That's Abe. But he goes through with it anyway. And his arc throughout Abe's Odyssey, and especially Soulstorm. Like, Soulstorm has such a good arc for Abe. I know that's the remake of the second game, but that's like their original vision. And Soulstorm especially, is what made me be like, no, I love Abe. Because, like, he was good in Odyssey. I love him in Odyssey, but in Odyssey, he is kind of just he's the hero. He's kind of the bumbling hero, but he's a good guy. In Soulstorm, he goes on this arc of he has to discover all these mysteries. He has to uncover all these powers. He gets traumatized to hell and back. And it's like, this boy goes through so much, but he's always still fighting, despite the fact that he's not a fighter. He's kind of a wimp. Like, he gets killed in like 2 hits, but he constantly fights. He fights for his friends. He fights for his family. He charges a fucking train into the base of the bad guys because he can. That is his destiny. And it's just, yeah, Abe, especially in Soulstorm, goes on such a good arc, and he becomes such a good character. I'm really excited to see what Oddworld Inhabitants does next with Abe's story. I love it.
It's a good franchise. Not to say that the gameplay is bad by any stretch of the imagination. It's good. It's just they definitely, at a time when gameplay seemed to be more important, they leaned really into their story.
They did.
Which is something you didn't see in those sort of games as often.
Yeah. Which is why I say it's the one platforming franchise I can think of where the main character goes through a big change.
Yeah, I haven't thought about those games in a while.
I got into them last year, or not even last year, earlier this year, and I fell in love with Abe.
I can see they're great games.
Yeah,
So
and there's other Oddworld characters that are really good. I like Toby. I like the Stranger from Stranger's Wrath, but none of them are like just as impactful to me and go on as good of an arc, as good of a journey, and are as good of characters as Abe. Which is fitting because he's the mascot, but yeah, I love Abe.
alrighty. Well, Mason, what is your number 3?
So there was one more element that I thought about with some of my entries, and this was the first one that came up when I thought about that, and it is representation, bringing in the sort of characters that you would see like in the real world that probably didn't get the sort of recognition, the sort of representation that they deserve in these big video game franchises. And I started thinking about black characters in video games, and when I thought about that, of course there have been African American characters in video games before this, but I couldn't think of one that was as big or as prominent as this one, and I'm of course talking about that is Carl C.J. Johnson from San Andreas.
I mean, I remember when San Andreas came out. That was kind of not that Grand Theft Auto wasn't huge at the time.
Right.
Or didn't have a huge franchise, but that was kind of the defining game that created what we know now.
Because, I mean, let's be honest. GTA was popular, but GTA 3 was what really exploded it. GTA Vice City was it's also good, but not a lot of people. It was a bit too Scarface heavy, because it's very Scarface. And then San Andreas came out, and it just exploded.
Yep.
Yeah. Of that PS2, Xbox era GTA games, San Andreas is my favorite.
I've never been the biggest GTA person, so Thomas and I kind of are on this side of things.
Hey!
But, even myself, not that into the GTA, went out and played San Andreas because of all around it and was interested in it and everything that was going with it. That was one you had to seek out.
Yeah.
It was huge.
Everyone played San Andreas, even if you weren't into GTA or weren't allowed to. You played San Andreas.
Yeah.
I remember my brother and I and a bunch of his friends were playing San Andreas, and we had to put the TV on mute because they just swore that damn much.
They really do.
My parents were fine with shooting hookers in the head, but God forbid you drop the F-bomb. Love you, Mom and Dad.
But yeah, that's because, think about it, the way that they kind of grounded this world where you could do pretty much anything into a sense of realism, especially at a time when the characters didn't exactly look the realest. The way that they were able to do that just blows my mind, and I don't think it would have been as effective if CJ wasn't as good of a character as he is, as much of a solid character.
Because CJ is very much the everyman, but he's a really good everyman.
Yeah.
Like every GTA protagonist is an everyman, but CJ is a really good everyman.
Absolutely.
It is, yeah.
Like, because he's an everyman, but he still has a lot of personality.
Yeah.
San Andreas would probably not have as many memes if it wasn't for one big, what the fuck is his name? Big
Smoke.
Big Smoke, yeah. If it wasn't for him, but also just CJ's personality.
Yeah.
The big, shit, here we go again. That's CJ. He is an everyman character. He does what he's asked, but he also was the pre-generator of the shit. Like, I'm in this situation I don't want to be, but fuck, what do I do? I gotta
do it. Yeah,
exactly.
It's a dirty job. Someone's got to do it.
Exactly.
And
I mean, you could argue like Tommy Vercetti from Vice City, but again, just San Andreas.
The thing about it, but that it feels a little more sophisticated. Like, not like, but it feels more like a lot of people don't necessarily like look to The Godfather and relate to it.
Yeah.
Or to Scarface and relate to it.
Yeah.
But despite this character and these characters, the things they are doing aren't necessarily moral. You can relate to CJ. You can relate to him more than you could some of the previous heroes. And especially for, if I, as a stereotypical white dude, can relate to it, just imagine what somebody sitting down who is African American and playing this character.
Yeah.
Even if there are some stereotypes that still existed on it, having that character be the central and not some copy of The Godfather or copy of Scarface character. This was something different.
Yeah.
It was huge in the industry.
And yeah, there are a lot of stereotypes for, black people and all that in this game. But that also comes with the times. And that also comes
with GTA.
I was going to say, that also comes with GTA. And especially back then, because GTA, it's another thing I think is really good about San Andreas. It has the perfect balance of, it's more serious than like GTA 1, 2, 3, but it is not as grounded as like 4 or 5 or whatever. So it has that really good balance of, it's still grounded in a little bit of reality. The main villain's a corrupt cop. Big Smoke does, I think he betrays you. I haven't finished San Andreas. Like I said, I'm not.
There's some betrayal that happens.
It's also been a while since I've played.
Like I said, I'm not into GTA, but like there's that sense of realism, but you also can unlock a jetpack and you can do all this shit.
There's so many cheat codes left and right in it.
And CJ, again, I think is one of the reasons the game works so well, because he grounds the game and is just a good center pull for everything to build off of.
I'm really confused. We haven't yet had to look at Mason and be like, what is wrong with you, child? I'm really confused. Mason's coming up with a good list.
See, I almost went with the villain in San Andreas. I almost went with Frank, Samuel L. Jackson's character, but no, I went with CJ. So
honestly, that makes more sense, because it'd be. I know you'd have good intentions, but it'd be like, yeah, I love the corrupt fucking cop.
Yeah, yep.
But I mean, he's played by Sam Jackson. Though.
I know. That's why I'm saying I wouldn't be able to judge you, but still.
Alrighty, so this is probably the spot that I waffled the most. I moved things around and up and down, and eventually, trying to figure out my top 5, I went back through to looking at my all-time favorite games. What do I consider 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10, the games that I will sit down and play, or games that I have bought 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times, We're talking about Leon Kennedy here.
How did I know? I knew that's where you were going.
Specifically, I know that Leon Resident Evil 2, I know that he is in other Resident Evils, but specifically the Leon Kennedy that I'm always going to embody is going to be Resident Evil 4. Because that game is amazing. As soon as I said I bought it 8 times, there's only 2 options.
I was going to say, as soon as you said you bought it 8 times, I'm like, oh, it's
the number 3 game I bought 8 times, and then the number 2 character has been bought almost that many times. So anyway.
I was going to say, so it's Leon.
But yeah, every time they've ported Resident Evil 4, I have bought it. Every single time.
Even to the fridge? I'm pretty sure they ported it to like a fucking smart fridge or whatever.
Amazing.
That's really funny.
Which means... Man, God forbid you're going in the middle of the night, like 3 a.m. to get some eggs, and you just get chainsawed in the head by one of those baghead dudes.
The thing about Resident Evil 4 that still holds up to this day is it is a Resident Evil game while not being a Resident Evil game. The story is very Resident Evil, but also very different than what we'd seen at the time. So much so that a lot of the trailers hid that it was Resident Evil 4 for a little bit. You don't hear about Umbrella till later on in the game again. Like it mentioned at the beginning, but, oh, wow, this might tie into Umbrella stuff is not till late in the game. But Leon is... Because in Resident Evil 2, he is first day guy stuck in this shit. But in Resident Evil 4, what makes Leon great as a character for me is that he is somebody who is volunteering to go into some shit, finding out this shit is way worse than he expected, and still, throughout it all, moving forward. And obviously in a video game, you're controlling a character, you're making it go through, but this character, at any point, sure, saving the president's daughter is probably a good thing, but is it worth my entire life? Like, is it worth this? Is this whiny, annoying following character worth it?
I like Ashley.
I like Ashley a lot. As far as, there are fetch and, rescue mission games can be really annoying. They make the dialogue between the two very fun. The fact that at the end of the game, when you beat it and you're on the jet ski, and Ashley's basically like, hey, you want a nightcap? And Leon's like, God damn it, you stupid hoe.
I will say, there's the Resident Evil 2 Leon, who's, very on the day job. There's Resident Evil 6 Leon, who's very tired, but Resident Evil 4 is like my definitive Leon, because he is the perfect balance of he's still relatively a rookie, but he's also now a badass action hero, because you cannot see Resident Evil 6 Leon like doing some of the shit Leon does in this game, like actually struggling, but you can also not see Resident Evil 2 Leon knocking over a lamp and going Buenos Dias, asshole, and blasting some motherfuckers out of the
There's
building.
also an element that Resident Evil 5 is a game I do actually enjoy, but you lose some of the everyman status that Leon has when you have ripped out of his mind Chris Redfield in the next game. And Leon is not that. It's not to say that Leon's not in shape. He's having to do all those things, but the way he looks, the way he is, you're like, oh yeah, I could be stuck in this situation, and I'm probably still way deader than Leon, but you could see it. The fact that he has, relationship friends with Ada Wong or Krauser, the character in it, is just fantastic. This game is just very well thought out, and then to give you an in-depth hero that you can really embody and be like, yeah, I see why he's doing this. He's doing this because he is the hero. He wants to be the hero. He's trying to be the hero, but he's also not like, he's not a cocky asshole. He's not a, he is a, all right, let's do this.
Which again, like, Chris is also kind of like that, because I do like Chris Redfield.
I do like Chris Redfield. I know I shit on Chris Redfield a little bit there, but I actually do really love Chris Redfield.
But Chris kind of does the same thing, but it's kind of harder to buy it with him, because again, he's a STARS operative. He's in the government. He's done like all this shit. Leon's like just a rookie cop who gets upgraded to being a government agent. And like, yeah, no shit, he's going to be the one who's like, fuck, goddamn piece of shit, like just running for his life, but just barely.
It makes the scenes where, say, there's an early scene where you are in the village, and you find out that basically your drivers are being burnt at the stake. They're dead and they're burning and other things. And as you get found out, and basically the whole village swarms you. Until eventually a guy with a chainsaw. And you just basically the goal of it is you have to live until the bell rings. So you can go through the whole without killing somebody if you can be really good, but you don't have a lot of ammo, which is a complaint in this game is, there's too much ammo at times, things like that. That's a huge complaint in 5 for a lot of people, but...
I'm a pussy, so...
Well, yeah, Resident Evil is like, I need one bullet for this entire game, but you actually have a lot of sense of dread in this scene, especially the first time. And because of the way they make Leon, you really feel that dread that, say, other characters in, again, 5 is almost the same style of game. You don't always feel that dread that you feel in Resident Evil 4 in multiples of those scenes because of the way they've made Leon as a character.
So hold on, let me get this straight. So in that part of Resident Evil 4, you just have to survive for a certain amount of time?
Yes.
You don't have to kill everybody?
You do not.
Fuck, I gotta go play Resident Evil 4 again. I know how to get past that part now.
Until they're,
I think...
And they drop a chainsaw guy early in the game, which is terrifying.
They do. Hearing the engine in the distance is...
Because I think...
There's not a lot of genuinely scary moments in 4. I think a lot of it is just it's a thriller. But that point where
that and the regenerators later on, when you don't know if they're dead or not, and they just like sit up and you're like, not another one.
Honestly, it's also the ones where you blow their heads off, and instead of falling over dead, they're like the scythes come out. And that's scary at first, but it also gets to the point where, like, you do it and the scythes come on, you're like, son of a bitch.
I have
like,
3 guns. three. Oh, fine. I'm gonna try to knife you.
Yeah. And I think a good comparison, because we brought up Chris Redfield earlier, and I think a good comparison to these characters is Chris Redfield is Arnold Schwarzenegger from Commando.
Yep.
He is a struggling, quote unquote, but he's the big dude. He's got the big gun. He's blasting all the bad guys. That's him. Leon Kennedy is John McClane.
Yep.
He is the guy who is always like skin of his teeth surviving.
He's just a guy that ends up in the wrong situations.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And that's Leon Kennedy is basically John McClane, but
instead of in buildings and planes, he's fighting giant eyeball monsters. All right, Thomas, what's your number 2?
My number 2, if you can't tell, I have a big preference for platformers, just because I've been able to talk about them the most. So my top 2 are both platformer characters.
Is one of them Bubsy?
I will smack you. No,
Croc.
Gex.
Well, to be honest, this one might not be very familiar, but it's one I do really like. I've been a fan of hers for a while. It is the one female character on my list. It is Shantae.
Ooh, yeah.
Okay.
I haven't thought about I haven't thought about those games in a while.
Yeah, and it comes down to the fact that if you can't tell, I also like to laugh. A lot of these characters are just kind of funny to me. Mm-hmm. And Shantae is a really funny character because she's kind of a perfect balance of, she's a bit of a hothead, but she's got a good heart. Like, one of my favorite lines of hers is, she gets this sword, I think it's in Risky's Revenge? No, it's not. I don't know. Pirate's Curse. I think it's in Pirate's Curse, where she gets this sword for this guy, and he turns out to be like a He-Man clone. And he's like, I'm a great role model for children. And she goes, I'm not, due to my short temper and provocative dress sense. And it's like, I love that, because like, one, it cracks me up because she's another one where she tries to be the stereotypical hero, like, oh, evildoer and all that, but she's got still this kind of snark where she's always like raising her eyebrow at everyone, like, what the fuck are you doing? One of my favorite ones is from Half Genie Hero, which is my favorite Shantae game. I love Half Genie Hero, where Risky attacks the village in the first level, and she drops this ship on you, and the ship is like mixed with a living being, and it's like Risky's like, behold Shantae, my new invention, and she gives this really long name, and it's an anagram, and then Shantae like thinks for a little bit, it's like poop doop, and she's like, don't call it that. Shantae's just one of those characters where her interactions are great, but her as well is just a really fun character.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't have much to say. I really like Shantae. Christina V is a really good voice actress because she plays Shantae, and she does the song for Half Genie Hero, which is a really good song as well. And yeah, I think she's just a really fun character.
Hey,
That's
that's a good pull.
That is a really good pull.
First,
I haven't thought.
first game on the list that I have not played. So
I haven't thought about those games in a long time.
If you play one, play Half Genie Hero. Half Genie Hero is amazing.
What's it on?
It's Switch.
Okay, sweet.
It's Switch, PS4. It's on fucking
Okay,
everything,
sweet.
dude.
Nice.
I could find it.
Well, that's a good pull.
That's a
Thomas.
really good
I
pull.
like it.
Very
All right,
surprising.
Mason. Number 2.
Number 2. So this is my female character. I was sort of going.
I didn't get the memo.
I was sort of
I
going.
didn't get them though. We were supposed to have titties.
I was going. I was.
That's why I include Sephiroth.
Damn it. So I kept going down the sort of representation rabbit hole, and I started thinking about female characters, and which ones that I thought were some of the most important when it came to female representation. My first thought was Chun-Li, and
I have that on honorable mentions.
I thought about putting her in for a little bit, but I kind of thought that like, well, I didn't really feel her importance as much as I did with other characters. I could be wrong. I could be wrong with that. But I just.
Well, you also didn't grow up as a woman in the '90s. You know, a little
fair.
girl that playing that. That's
and
that could change your perspective very
that
much.
could, yeah.
You also didn't grow up. You're also not like a massive fighting game fan.
Yeah, I'm also
like, like for me, you say Chun-Li, and I'm immediately like, oh yeah, most important woman in gaming. Like, because that's just my mindset.
One of the easiest up there. That's why she's on my honorable mentions. Was because
She's on mine too.
and she was almost on my top 5.
But I didn't end up going with her. And then I also thought about Samus from the Metroid series. But then I also then I kind of thought, well, outside of like her own franchise, I didn't really feel the influence to like other games.
Mm-hmm.
I mean there is, but it's not as that's more in like indie game circles, or a lot of indie games that were influenced from Metroid. But not a lot of
It's more in style than
than anything else.
I'm bad at Metroid games. I'm so bad at the Metroid games.
terrible.
But I ended up settling on a female character that I thought was not only important to female characters in gaming, but to gaming as a whole, and that is Lara Croft.
I knew that.
Yeah, I kind of figured that's where we're coming.
From the Tomb Raider series.
Yeah,
In multiple different Tomb Raider franchise, she has been important.
Yeah, and I do like the newer Tomb Raider games, but I did kind of miss that. Like they don't give her as much personality as the originals did. She is so full of personality in the early PlayStation games.
because the thing with Lara Croft in the original games is people misinterpret her a lot.
Mm-hmm.
They think she's just a pair of knockers. And to be fair, that was the advertising. But
Yeah, some of that's the advertising and the design, but
Yeah,
yes,
but-
she is.
Gotta love those triangles.
But she is so full of personality, and not personality. I mean, like
actual
personality.
personality.
That so much that the movies, the first 2 movies, the Angelina Jolie's, felt lacking in her personality because the character is a lot more than just what was shown in those movies.
Yeah. And even the Tomb Raider movie from 2018, I enjoyed it, but again, the main character kind of felt like a vacuum of charisma.
Well, sorry.
No, go ahead.
That's kind of because they do the new Tomb Raider games, which she's fine in those, but she's very generic. aesthetic.
Yeah, they really just they really just kind of made it Uncharted but female, which is fine.
They're fun games.
Yeah,
I like the
they're-
games a
they're
lot.
fun.
But yeah, some of the personality from the original Tomb Raider games is lost
It's very
from
much
Lara
lost,
Croft.
yeah.
Again, I like her arcs in the new games. I like that how vulnerable they're willing to let her be, and then have her kick as much ass as possible as she's there. I do like those sort of things. Whereas kind of the original was more of like, I'm going to come in and just kick your ass. But I can also say, like, story-wise, I think the originals actually have a little bit more on her.
I'll also say, I think that's kind of the fun with the original Lara Croft. Like, she's not a character meant to be taken, like, 100% seriously. I mean, for God's sakes, her breasts are, like, the size of her fucking face. Both of them are, like, each the size of her face. She's got... But, like...
Talk about bad cameras in video games. Oof.
But, yeah, Lara Croft in the original games, I don't think she's meant to be taken 100% seriously, so that's kind of the fun, to see her backflipping through the air, dual-wielding pistols. I mean, that's also just the style of game I like. So maybe that it does lean more towards my taste. It's more of an action.
She's much more of an action hero in the originals, and then more of kind of the adventurer in the new franchises.
And again, that probably just leans more towards my taste because I prefer the action hero character.
So yeah, that's my second choice.
Alrighty.
Sean, what's your second female choice?
So, as I did not get the memo, and I could have put somebody from this game if I wanted to, and I thought a lot. So one of my all-time favorite games. So we're just going to tell a little story here on this. 13-year-old Sean went to hang out with
You were 13 once?
I know. Went to hang out with his cousin on a family trip, and his cousin had this new PlayStation 2 game that was beautiful. Gorgeous graphics, and he was like, "You've got to watch these scenes from it because there's a watch through it." And so he puts this game in and watch it. And in this first scene that he shows me, a large monster is destroying an ancient type of city, while it opens up with a dude with a big sword and a like water canteen on his side. One sleeve in his one arm in a sleeve, one out of a sleeve, as he just kind of sits and watches. And immediately I go, I need to know more about this character. I am talking about Final Fantasy X, and specifically Auron of Final Fantasy X, a character that I gravitated to probably more than any Final Fantasy character at this point, and probably ever. It's simply because Final Fantasy X is the most emotional in the franchise. That game has so many highs and lows, and because it is a very depressing universe they're in. If you don't know, basically, the sins of mankind are manifested in a large flying whale, we'll call it, called Sin, who basically just is destroying the world. But people called summoners go on journeys where they collect summons, and eventually get to a point where they've gone through their journey and gone through enough that they can take on what is called the final Aeon and defeat Sin. As you go through the game, Auron was a mentor on one of these quests that succeeded in beating Sin. But 2 years later, Sin returned, as he always does. They have a short calm, and then he returns. And Auron joins to the party for Yuna, who is the daughter of the summoner who he was on. And as you go through it, he is the Obi-Wan of this story. He is the mentor, the wise person that goes on, that knows probably more than everyone else, knows more about everything, but isn't going to just tell everybody because they have to learn to understand it. And he has one of the greatest speeches at the end when they're going to get the final summon. And they realize and learn that the final summon is a farce. That more or less it's a religion that has basically used that you can give one of your best friends or one of the person close to you becomes the final summon. It is used to defeat Sin, and then the god, the religious entity within Sin, takes over that summon and becomes Sin again and recreates Sin from it. So each Sin is basically who is defeated is the previous summoner's best friend. And when you realize this and you decide, no, we're not going to do it this way. We're going to find a different way. And you turn on the religion. And Oron stands there, who has already been through this once, and basically tells, now is the time. Now is the time to decide if you are going to fight or run away. Because there is no turning back here. And he stands in this scene, and it's just a character that all the characters of the game are rich. They're full of very interesting stories, backstories. The game is full of it. But this character has stuck out with me so much from the beginning, so much that I love wandering around pretending to have, as a kid, with a sword on my shoulder with it, you know. He has an attack where he holds his sword up, it gets all these flames, he drinks from his canteen, spits on it, and then throws fireballs at people. Whoa. He's just fucking cool.
I'm not as big into the Final Fantasy franchise as you are, so I wouldn't have thought of that at all. But the way that you've described that character, god damn.
It is Obi-Wan on steroids in a lot of ways.
My first thought, again, I'm not that big into Final Fantasy. I'm not that big into RPGs in general. It is just my own personal preference. So I can say Orin has a cool-ass design, but I don't know a lot about him as a character, but I kind of got the vibe of him being an Obi-Wan character. Mm-hmm. And he's a really good one from what you described, because that is a really... I do watch a series called, I do watch this Final Fantasy retrospective series, and they did do Final Fantasy X. It's a really good story.
It is my favorite story in the franchise. It's one of my favorite games, and I could have picked a lot of the characters because they all have an impact in different ways. But I will always sit back as this young teenage kid and first seeing this character and how much of an impact it put on me.
I mean, my first thought was Titus.
But there's a lot of that. I could put Yuna, I could put Waka, because all of them have to learn, grow, and have extreme lessons throughout it that have basically everything they believe in overthrown at some point or another.
You didn't pick Johnny Test?
Hold on. Final Fantasy X is a PS2 game?
Yep.
Yeah.
It looks like a PS3 game.
It is
It's a very
gorgeous.
Game.
It is a very
Square knows what the fuck they're
how
doing.
to make gorgeous games.
For a 2001 PS2 game, that is surprising.
It looks gorgeous.
I would have sworn it was like a PS3 GameCube era game.
Hell, I think it looks better than some of the Final Fantasies that came after.
It does. In a lot of theirs, they put a lot of time and effort into the graphics, and the HD remasters on whether the 3, 4, Vita, Switch, all the other systems that they've come out on, look great. So the remasters just in HD have looked really good as well. So it's a beautiful game. Well, before we get to our number ones, as we've sat and gone through, there are a lot of characters that probably missed the list. So, Thomas, you want to give a few of your honorable mentions of what hit the list, why they didn't make the list, why they did? Let's take more people's time up by telling you more things.
I mean, I really like fighting games, obviously.
And yet no characters made your top 5 from fighting games.
Fighting
Except
game
for Phoenix
characters.
Wright.
Well, if we're going by that logic, then Pit from Kid Icarus.
Oh yeah, that's right, because he's in Smash.
But no, I don't count them because they're crossover fighting games. That's different.
They weren't made for fighting games.
I was going to say made for fighting games.
That's like saying Darth Vader is a fighting game character.
Yeah, so I have like a miniature top 5 of just fighting game characters, and this is not a specific order. This is just fighting game characters I love. Sub-Zero from Mortal Kombat, Brian Fury from Tekken, Rock Howard from Garo, Mark of the Wolf.
Oh, wow.
And Chun-Li and Ryu from Street Fighter. Like, that is just a little miniature top 5 I have of just the fighting game characters where every time I see them, I get excited. And like, I could have picked a lot of Street Fighter characters because I love
Street Fighter has just a great design.
Yeah.
I'm more thinking about Sub-Zero over the vast cast of Mortal Kombat characters. Is there any...
I mean, there's other Mortal Kombat characters I like. I like Johnny Cage. I like Liu Kang, Kung Lao, Scorpion.
Wins.
But Sub-Zero is just the one. He's, again, when it comes to fighting game characters, and kind of a reason they weren't on my top 5 because they're very like, I mean, I say they're very surface level, but my whole reasoning for Shantae is she's fun. But like for fighting game characters, the main reason I always want to like get into them is because I just see them and I'm like, those dudes are rad. Like, and Ryu and Chun-Li were, again, the two where I'm like, okay, these guys are like, they mean business. Like, Ryu's got the headband and the stance, he's the mascot. Chun-Li's got those spike bracelets and the thunder thighs that literally can kick you through walls.
That can, like, have her hover a few inches off the ground.
Yep. And that Brian,
she has never missed squat her leg day.
That's her daily routine. She squats while she sleeps. I'm pretty sure in Street Fighter 6, like, her hips are wider than her damn head. But then you get, again, Sub-Zero is just one of those characters where he's just, no pun intended, he's cool as fuck. Like, he's rad. Mm-hmm. Like, again, there are other Mortal Kombat characters I could have picked, but Sub-Zero is just the one where I see and I'm instantly interested. Like, Mortal Kombat 2021 is a flawed movie, but that portrayal of Sub-Zero as like this slasher villain is like, oh shit, you mean business. And Brian Fury is another one. He is my favorite Tekken character because he's a psychopath. I think that it's been put best, he is an incarnation of all 80s action movie villains. And that's Brian Fury. In any movie where his finishing story has him throwing a girder into a helicopter, yeah, I'm going to like him.
Fair enough.
Yeah, and then Rock Howard, again, is just when he's cool. Like, I know he's the most...
Sometimes you just have to have a cool character.
Yeah, which is also some of my other picks, such as Dante from Devil May Cry.
Yes.
Who, again, he's just cool as fuck.
He's very, very cool.
And the one Final Fantasy character on my list in honorable mentions, I do like him as a character, but I did mostly pick him because he's cool as fuck. Final Fantasy VII's Vincent Valentine.
I am.
I was going to say, you kind of knew because it's just my style.
Vampire monster creature who
has guns and is voiced by Steve Bloom in Dirge of Cerberus.
Who is an optional character in the original game. You can absolutely play the game without getting him.
Oh yeah, you can miss him, but I love Vincent. Vincent is so
great
rad.
character, which would be really funny if you missed him, didn't know he was a character, then watched Advent Children, and you're like, oh, that!
Well, that's kind of how it was for me, because I'd never heard of Vincent Valentine before. It wasn't Advent Children. It was Dirge of Cerberus. But I was just looking through, and I see Dirge of Cerberus, and I see this guy with this red headband, this red scarf, this massive gun walking through fire, and I'm like, who the fuck is that? Why is he rad as shit? Like,
cool
why is
character.
that like the coolest motherfucker on the planet?
I wish that game was better.
Oh, I'm gonna play it because I love Vincent Valentine. Then we have villains. There's a bunch of villains I love. Dr. Eggman from Sonic. King Dedede from Kirby. Bowser, who was my number 5 originally. I love Bowser. Specifically, the reason he's not on the list is because I only really like him in one game. Like, I like him in other games, but I only love his character in one game, and that's Bowser's Inside Story.
Oh, yeah.
And my favorite Mario character, arguably, is Wario. Love Wario.
How can you hate on Wario?
No, you can't. He's a bastard, and it's great.
The fact that his first game that he was in was literally when he threw a bucket on Mario's head, and that you had to play the fairy as you try to make sure Mario doesn't walk off the edge.
The Phoenix Wright character, who I said was in my honorable mentions, Miles Edgeworth. What a surprise. Sly Cooper from Sly Cooper.
Okay, I was expecting that on your list, honestly.
He was close. He was really close. Honestly, I just forgot to put him in there. But hey,
just like Sony has forgotten to put him in.
Has forgotten that the anniversary is this year, and we should get a remastered at least of all the games.
No, we got a T-shirt and a poster. That's just as good, isn't it? Yeah.
Sony hates Sly Cooper, and to a greater extent, us.
Great franchise.
He looks at us with contempt. Oh, I love Sly Cooper.
It's a great
franchise.
franchise.
I love Sly Cooper.
Yeah.
Agent 47 from Hitman.
Almost mentioned him as on a mention, but I was like, I just no, like I love the games and everything, but I don't necessarily have the connection with 47 like I would with others.
Because it's another one. It's another reason he's not on my list. He's just fucking cool. Like it's another reason he's not on my list because I can't just give the surface level reason of he's cool.
Yeah.
Even though I kind of did for Shantae, but whatever.
You had better reasons.
And probably the biggest honorable mention, the one who genuinely I only thought of today, and I'm like, oh shit, should he be on the top 5? And I struggled for a while. Kane from Legacy of Kain.
That's fair.
I love Kane. He is such a complex and interesting character. Even in the PS1 games where the graphics are shit, like while they're bad, they look like melted claymation figures. Kane is such a good character, and his writing is so good. And that is probably down to Amy Hennig, because I don't think that woman can do any wrong.
That's fair.
And just such a complicated character. He is both hero, villain, everything in between. Just, ooh, I love Kane. I love Kane. But yeah, those are my honorable mentions. Like I said, I'll probably remember some.
Oh, there'll probably be
Very,
more,
very
and those
solid.
lists will change. That's the fun thing about lists. All right, Mason, you got any honorable mentions here?
I do. I have a good number of honorable mentions. So this is one that I was thinking. Oh, did you forget one?
Yeah, but just real quick, Calypso from Twisted Metal.
Fair enough.
Yes. So, just some that I thought of that I did genuinely almost swap out at the last minute, but I was like no, I'm gonna stick with the list that I have. Solid Snake, like one of the original video game action heroes. He was like you didn't have a lot of. At the point when the first Metal Gear Solid came out, you didn't have like any of those big action heroes like you saw in movies, and he was pretty much the progenitor.
He was the
of
progenitor
that.
of a lot of that.
And then you ever look at a character and think, I want to meet the person who came up with that. I want to meet the madman who I want to know whose idea it was to put an earthworm in a space chute with a laser gun who's able to grapple onto things with his head. I want to meet whoever made Earthworm Jim. I want to meet that person.
And who decided to make him a guest character in Clay Fighters.
Yeah. Man, I want another Earthworm Jim game so bad.
Well, okay. Should we just have top 5 franchises that need to come the fuck back?
Yes, absolutely. Then I also included Crash Bandicoot on there.
Ooh, yeah.
It's one I thought about, but
Crash
just doesn't have a whole lot. I don't have a whole lot of impact with Crash. I played Crash, but like it was never a character that like was huge aside from being the mascot.
He was also on my top 5, but I already had my dumb boy with Pit.
Yeah,
so.
that's fair enough. I just put him on there because I like how cartoony he is. He feels like a playable Looney Tunes character if you don't want to play any of the Looney Tunes games. And then I also included another forgotten tragedy. Even though his like most recent games weren't that long ago, it still kind of feels like he's kind of been forgotten, and that is Rayman.
Ooh, yeah.
Man, my boy Rayman he has been mistreated for so long.
Hey, he's coming back in Mario plus Rabbids.
Yeah, Rayman became the Rabbids as more of anything else in it. But
yeah, he got murdered by a bunch of minion ripoffs. Or did the
Rabbids came first? I believe.
Okay.
By like a year, but
he got killed by the progenitor of the minions.
I mean,
better minions.
I was gonna say
But
I like them more than the minions.
I do prefer the Rabbids
That's
to the minions.
almost only exclusively because of Mario plus Rabbids, because that game's actually pretty good.
I did enjoy it. Then I also had Leon Kennedy in my honorable mentions. I also had Nathan Drake in there because he's just he's really cool. He's just a cool guy.
Yeah.
What kept me from putting Nathan Drake even in my mentions, even though I did think for a minute on it, was just simply as he is a copy of a lot of characters.
Yeah.
He's sort of a fusion.
A fusion of a lot of characters. And again, he's done very well. He's a impactful, huge character on franchises and on video games as a whole. But that's what kept him off of even a mention for mine.
But yeah, to quote the musical Hamilton, he seems approachable, like you could grab a beer with him, and that's what I like about Nathan Drake. After that, I have what I consider like the first great first-person shooter character, and that is Doom Guy. He's like the origins of some of like you. I don't think you would have like Master Chief without Doom Guy first.
That's fair.
I mean, Master Chief is basically Doom Guy.
Yeah. So there's but like I'm sure I'm missing like a ton of other FPS characters. Like, you probably wouldn't have Duke Nukem without Doom Guy.
I mean, the only one who I could think would pre-generate Doom Guy, or what the fuck ever, is BJ Blazkowicz from Wolfenstein. But Doom Guy, I'm not trying to invalidate you or whatever, because Doom Guy, without a doubt, was way
Is huge.
more impactful.
Oh, yeah.
Because BJ didn't become a good character until, like, 2014 with Wolfenstein The New Order. And Doom Guy was always, like, always such a good, I'm a rip and tear until it's done kind of
Yeah,
guy.
yeah, and that's so that's why I put Doom Guy in there. Then I also have Bella Goth from the Sims games because I'm a simp. Then we have
No need to comment. Carry on.
Who the fuck?
Don't worry. Carry on.
Who the fuck is that? I genuinely don't know.
she's a character in the Sims.
Oh, that explains it.
And then I also have one of the earliest horror game villains that I believe to be truly terrifying, and that is Pyramid Head. Pyramid Head
With his thick thighs.
scares the hell out of me, and that's why I
One of
love
the
him.
first villains to have cake.
Yeah.
I used to be scared of him, but then someone data mined his model and figured out he had a fucking dumpy, and I'm like, I can't take him seriously anymore because all I'm
But
thinking
that's fair.
is,
Pyramid Head was, yeah.
it's kind of the same reason I can't take whatever the hell her name is, Lady Dimitrescu from Resident Evil 8 seriously, because she's so fucking thick.
And why wouldn't you want to get caught by her?
Yeah, exactly.
Putting hooks through my hands.
So then, continuing the theme of forgotten mascots. God, I'm hoping, I am waiting for the day that we get a Parappa the Rappa comeback. I am waiting for that day, and I will wait for that day until I'm in the grave. God, I want another Parappa the Rappa game.
Good character. Good choice.
I fucking love Parappa the Rapper. And then another character that I picked simply because of just how impressive it is that this character became as widely known as it is. How many people can say that they made a international frickin' icon out of a circle with a triangle taken out of it? I'm talking Pac-Man. Like that, it's
Waka, waka.
yeah, it's the Mickey Mouse effect. You see a circle with a triangle taken out of it. Your first thought is going to be Pac-Man. Like, how impressive is that?
Literally every time I eat pizza and I like take out of
You
it,
take
I'm
out
like,
a piece.
It's fucking Pac-Man.
It's Pac-Man. You can't look at a pizza with a slice taken out of it again because of Pac-Man, and that I think is just amazing.
Why, just barely misses the list there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are my honorable mentions.
All right, I got a few honorable mentions. I thought a lot of these could have, on different days, be on my list. Some of them are just characters that I'm like, I need to recognize because of impact. I mentioned before with Sephiroth that I could have put any Final Fantasy VII character, any of them in the list, and you were there. You specifically Cloud, Aerith, Tifa, Barrett. All could have been on the list for different reasons.
Vincent Valentine.
Vince
I'm
Valentine,
kidding.
later on. But really those characters, because, Barrett being the first African-American in Final Fantasy, even if there are some stereotypes to it, that was still very impactful. Tifa being the way she was modeled, but also being this kick-ass and important person, and then Cloud just being coded in a way that any person of whatever sexuality you are could be like, yeah, that they're on my team. Because Cloud can fit in a lot of those corners. Just impactful. And then obviously Aerith for similar reasons as with Sephiroth of just the impact of her character on the franchises. Mm-hmm. A lot of other Final Fantasy characters I could have picked, from 10, from 8, Tara Brantford from 6. I could have picked from the original Final Fantasy Garland, which then got more in with Jack Garland in Stranger in Paradise, and how impactful that game was to the franchise and to video games as a whole. I easily could have picked any of the Cids from Final Fantasy, a character that has been in the franchise from Final Fantasy 2 on and has been in every single game since. So I could have definitely picked a lot of Final Fantasy characters. I chose just to pick what I did. Obviously, different characters from Mario, being more impactful. I know you said Bowser, but, I had Waluigi. Us scrawny boys have to stick together.
One of the most underappreciated video
that has
game
only really been
characters.
in the sports games that has rarely had actually any impact.
Skinny boys gotta stick together. That's why I picked Wario. The fat fucks gotta stick together, baby.
But I also picked possibilities. I thought about Comic from as the villain of Yoshi's Island 2, or sorry, Mario World 2, Yoshi's Island, and an impact. I thought a little bit on that. You could pick people from Super Mario RPG. Either Gino or Mallow would have easily picked. That's where I thought you were going with Bowser, best Bowser character.
I even like Princess Peach.
Yeah, so. Like that you could pick any of those from it. My fighting game impact would be obviously Chun-Li, just because of the impact on well, I played a lot of Street Fighter 2 and then didn't play Street Fighter for decades, after a while, because it just didn't cross it. But no matter what, I would know who Chun-Li was. I also included one of my favorites from an honor mention from Soul Calibur. Talim was my main and my character, and I love her. As the world is going to hell, that she still has this like amazing, uplifting attitude, even when everything is shit.
I know this isn't limiting it down at all, but was she the sword chick?
No, she's the one that has the 2 on her arms.
Oh, she's like the Tonfa.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I love a lot of side characters, so like Funky Kong from Donkey Kong always stuck out to me. I specifically, despite the fact that I have never beaten a Legend of Zelda game, and I prefer to watch instead of play them, from Majora's Mask, the Skull Kid, or when you get to turn into Goron Link specifically, I almost put those on. Star Killer from Force Unleashed, I thought about it for a while. As well as Darth Revan from KOTOR, because that almost could have been my female character, because she or he could be whatever you wanted to be as your created character. Impacting mascots that could be there. Frogger, I had down as I played, especially the version that was on the PlayStation more than I poured hours into that.
Frogger's beautifully simple.
Shadow the Hedgehog was impactful to me, as Thomas dies of it. Kratos almost hit the list just because of the impact of the PlayStation era that he was, but I didn't have enough of a impact as a player for me to make it on it. And then I almost put down Red from the Pokemon games. Your protagonist of the first Pokemon games. Also almost put Professor Oak on, just simply for his dialogue in Pokemon Snap. Wonderful. So, those are some of the honorable mentions. Those are the people that didn't make our lists. So, who's ready for our top number ones? Thomas? I was predicting Sly Cooper, so the fact that Sly Cooper was in the honorable mentions and not as number one, I am ready to be surprised. I know it's not going to be.
I was going to say, don't be. My number one, I am a very basic bitch.
I actually know what it is.
I was going to say, you know what it is. Everyone will probably know what it is. And if you don't, you're going to be like, this motherfucker. It's Sonic.
I was about to say, is it what I think it is?
I forgot that he hadn't been mentioned, and you'd only mentioned Eggman in the honorable mentions. I thought he was going to fall a little lower. My prediction was Sly Cooper. But I got the S right.
Honestly, Sly Cooper isn't a bad choice, but I mean, I'm just going to be honest. It's Sonic, and that's almost exclusively due to the fact that Sonic is, one, it's my favorite game franchise in general. Two, I just love the character. Any interpretation of Sonic, I mean, almost any. But that's what I like, is that there can be multiple interpretations of him. You can have him be more sensitive. You can have him be more of an asshole, and it'll make sense.
Yeah.
I prefer asshole Sonic, personally. But, you can have him be a nice balance. You can have Ryan Drummond, Jason Griffith, Roger Craig Smith, Jaleel White.
Yeah, that's yeah.
and yeah, I almost put Knuckles here, because Knuckles is my favorite Sonic character, but for me, it felt right. Just putting Sonic at number one, Mm-hmm. And again, don't get me wrong, is this a basic pick? Yeah. Oh. And I'm not going to say it's not, but just the impact he had on me as a person. This is the one that I kind of pulled a Sean, where it's like, he's been, it sounds really cheesy, but he's been there for me with all the tough times. I mean, I haven't had a terrible life or whatever, but he's been there when I've been down. He's kind of, I just have this.
And you got a new game coming, so.
Exactly, yeah. And Frontiers actually looks really good. Please do not jinx it. I swear to God, I will jump off a bridge.
You forgot Ben Schwartz.
Oh yeah, Ben Schwartz. I forgot about him. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, Ben Schwartz is a really good Sonic.
Yeah.
I don't think Sonic's had a bad voice. Like,
Yeah, that's yeah.
I mean, I don't enjoy the English dub voice in the Sonic OVA because it's really nasally.
Yeah.
But
I'm also
he-
not
he's
really
still a
big
good-
on. I'm also not really big on the Sonic X voice.
Jason Griffith.
Yeah, he's okay. He's just not my favorite.
I'm the same way. I don't love him, but I don't hate him either.
Mm-hmm.
He's a lot of people's favorite because he's an Unleashed, Black Knight, all that, and he does a good job in those. But
And 06.
he's fine. I prefer Jason Griffith as Shadow, honestly. I think Griffith does a really good Shadow.
He voiced Shadow too.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
yeah, he was Shadow from Shadow the Hedgehog until Black Knight.
Wow.
So yeah, I honestly prefer him as Shadow. He's just been there.
Yeah, that's fair.
Has
Sometimes the basic and the answer that is the right one though. So
Yeah, that's fair.
And again, like technically in the Sonic franchise, I prefer Knuckles, but it just felt right. Putting
That's
Sonic
fair.
at number one, you know.
that's fair. Alrighty, Mason. Number 1. Is Mason gonna pull a cat's here out of his
I'm
ass?
not.
I
No,
swear
no,
to God.
No.
My favorite.
Go vacation ass.
My favorite.
I
one's
know.
a Go Vacation.
I know that's what you're expecting, but that's. Hate to disappoint you. That's not what you're gonna get. So.
Damn, no, I'm kidding.
So, I wanted to include a villain on my list. I knew from the start which villain this was going to be, but thinking about it more, I didn't realize how high they were going to rank. But then thinking about it more, I was like, yes, this is the villain to top all villains in my head, and it's just it's the way that they manage to balance like how threatening they are. They are a very, very big threat in the games that they're in. They are scary. They're intimidating, but also at the same time, they're incredibly funny in a very subversive and dark and twisted way, and just the way that it's their determination to be as evil as they are, and along with their devotion to science, that make them my top character, and that is GLaDOS from Portal and Portal 2 is my top character because when it comes to villains, GLaDOS is like top of the pyramid in my head. She is because she's equal parts threatening and enjoyable and funny. It's like you don't want to be there because you don't want to be in the aperture area because you're being forced to do the same thing over and over. But at the same time, it almost with GLaDOS being there, it almost feels in a weird, twisted way, sort of comforting because GLaDOS is the voice because your character is voiceless. GLaDOS is the voice that keeps you going. You want to hear the next dark, twisted thing she's gonna say, and then especially in Portal 2, which in my opinion is better than Portal 1, and I think if I think about it, my favorite game of all time, she gets a lot more depth to her character when you find out her backstory and like what happened to her and how she became who she is. You almost sympathize with her at the end of that game, and yeah, that's my number 1 character.
That's a really good choice.
That's a good pull. That's a good pull.
She also has a really good singing voice. Because,
She does. She really does.
Because the ending song of Portal 2 is genuinely up there as one of the best songs in any game.
Yeah.
Both Portal games have really awesome credit songs.
Fun fact, there is a third one.
There was a third one. I do remember
for
that.
Lego Dimensions.
Oh no, that's not what I was thinking
Oh,
of.
was it not? What were you
Well, there
thinking
was going to be another. There was another one that because the ones that appear in 1 and 2 were written by different people for the game specifically, but there was another one that Ellen McLean, I think is her name. There's another one that Ellen McLean had written for that was going to be in Portal 2, but it didn't match the tone, so they cut it. I didn't know there was one in Lego Dimensions.
Yeah, because GLaDOS is in Lego Dimensions, and she gets a song for the end credits.
That's really funny.
And
That's wild.
You want to know what the end credit song is about?
What?
It's about her having a crush on Batman.
Amazing.
That's amazing.
Lego Dimensions is a fucking masterpiece, and I will hear no one argue
One
otherwise.
of my other favorite moments in the Portal section of Lego Dimensions is when you get to GLaDOS and then they bring out HAL 9000 and they start talking back and forth. That's a fantastic moment. She's also in Poker Night 2, and she's also really funny in that too.
Poker Night 2 is just a really good play. I mean, hell, you brought up Poker Night 2. My first thought was I could have added to honorable mentions. Oh shit, Sam and Max.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good pull, Mason.
That's
a good pull.
I love
It
GLaDOS.
is a really good play.
Alrighty. Well, kind of on the lines of Thomas, mine is kind of obvious, if anybody knows me. But we're going to go to a little story time here. So in 2017, I was having marital troubles that would later lead to a divorce. And on one of the times when my ex-wife was gone, left for a trip, I took a bit of money and went to GameStop and bought a game that had multiple games on it, because I was going to play these games for the first time since 2005, 2006, and that is Kingdom Hearts. And in that time frame, a game franchise that I loved and meant something to me in a lot of ways pulled me through. And of course, that means my number one is a wonderful little dum-dum, a sweetheart of all, and that is Sora.
Who is? I know it wasn't going to be. I was going to say I was really hoping you twisted it, and it's like my favorite character is Riku.
I mean, I love all the Kingdom Hearts characters, and I love the franchise. I love the crazy, silly story. I love how bonkers it is. But the thing that I love especially about the first two games, and really the third one as well, but the first two really encapsulate this, is in a lot of ways they are games that are about dealing with depression. Your characters are going through shit and having to put the smile on. And one thing that's great in the first game, when you first encounter Donald and Goofy, and they basically tell you, well, you've got to be able to smile to be able to be with us. And Sora puts on the cheesiest, dumbest smile on the planet, because we know he's faking it through this. But he still puts it on, and he puts others first in this. And just as a character that goes through all these things, that has things taken from him, that consistently in games has his power taken from him, or loses his memories, or has the friends that he's been trying to get to just always out of reach. The people that he loves are just always out of reach, and things taken from him, and he continues forward and onward. He's a character that just I truly love. The fact that he wields a weapon that was not destined for him, that was not supposed to be his.
It's a very unconventional weapon too.
That he goes to all these universes, these worlds that are to classic characters, and he interacts perfectly and fits perfectly in all these universes. I saw one of a great joke recently that just works on it, that because they go to the Mulan universe in Kingdom Hearts 2, and Shang obviously lets them into the army, because you are allowed in the army. So clearly in the Mulan universe, Shang is okay with a dog, a duck, and a child, but god damn it, a woman.
God forbid it's a woman.
But Sora just, and it's a little bit of Thomas said with Sonic, look, Sora was there, and I sat down and I played those games, and then I went and I bought the PS3 version that had Kingdom Hearts 2 and all the extras. And then, of course, when I got the PS4, I got the complete collection and the .8 collection. And if Kingdom Hearts 3 came day one, I've got 2 copies of Melodies of Memories because I needed to play it on both the Switch and the PlayStation. I've downloaded phone app games because I need to play and all this. And this franchise became so important to me and pulled through. And it's all because of this sweet, naive young child who is just so dumb, but that's because he's a 12-year-old who never went to school.
What they managed to pull off with Sora is actually kind of impressive, because they needed it. They needed to make a character that was able to be a character on its own and then also fit in with all of the Disney worlds that they go into, and they pulled that off.
They really did. Which is weird. You don't you don't think he'd mesh as well as he does, because he's very anime design. He's got the spiky hair. He's got Tetsuya Nomura has a zipper fetish, so there's so many on his fucking outfit. But
Not to beat Donald. Donald is just zipper the.
Donald's outfit is one big zipper.
He has one of his wands that has a zipper on.
but like, yeah, he fits in with all these characters, and credit where it's due. Again, I'm not the biggest Kingdom Hearts fan. I've played more of it than I have of Final Fantasy.
More platforming.
Yeah, exactly. More platforming, more action, that kind of thing. Nothing. I mean, there's a lot of impactful scenes in gaming, but one of the biggest, just even for me, who's not the biggest Kingdom Hearts fan, is the ending of 2, where he's finally just like, shit, I'm finally home. I'm finally with my friends. Everything is okay. Like, just him finally being able to relax. Like, okay. I'm not in hell anymore. I have gone through it like 3 separate times in this damn adventure. And I know there's sequels after that, but Kingdom Hearts 2 has
Kingdom Hearts 2
really
is
good ending.
a spectacular game. And I mean, I love all of them. Arguably, Birth by Sleep is my favorite, the one that doesn't have Sora, aside from Kid Sora. But
Birth by Sleep is really
Birth
good.
by Sleep is so good. But the fact that they created this franchise that is Final Fantasy meets Disney, and as dumb as all of it sounds, as convoluted as the story can get, as many retcons as they throw in, it's still fantastic.
Oh,
Yeah.
I wanted to make a joke, but you were in the middle of your spiel, and I didn't want to be an asshole. Because you said, like, the first 2 Kingdom Hearts games, and I'm like, you mean 1 and 2 or 1 and Chain of Memories?
I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Chain of Memories. There's a lot of people that hate Rechain and who don't like Chain of Memories. That game, I love.
Because I didn't want to be an asshole. So, but yeah, yeah.
All right, well, that is our top 5 lists of video game characters of all time on this day.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it'll
As
be
of now.
Tell us while we're right, we're wrong. Go to that, if you're on Apple iTunes, you're on iTunes there. Type in some nice words or some mean words. Give us that 5 stars, though. We'll be happy for it. Tell us what you think.
give us your top 5.
Yeah, give us your top 5. We'd love to hear. We'd love to see some of that. We'll be back with another episode next week that may be a little loonier. So you guys all have a great time, and we'll see you next time.
Get good, you slut.